You're listening to an East Coast Guild podcast. Check us out at eastcoastguild.com. What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome back to another beautiful episode of Organization 2. I am one of your hosts, Kelomes, and I have with me, of course,
Sando.
Andy.
Sandy.
Sandy.
Same thing.
So I guess we'll start off by talking about how we've been the past week. How have you been, my good dude?
Good overall.
Good overall.
In terms of KH stuff, earlier this week I finished KH3. It was about like Monday or so. And
you said it took you about, what, 30 hours?
I would say realistically, the save file said 35, but I wasted a lot of time sitting in the menu.
All right, yeah, that happens.
So
mine's inflated by about an hour or so of actual playtime right now too.
Yeah, because a lot of it was since I have it on PS4, I just left it in rest mode, and every now and then I feel like I would start it up and then I'd come back and say, oh, it's been so long.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I would say I beat the game in about 32 hours.
32, not bad. Not bad way to go.
And it took me a while to do the final boss, but I was like level mid-50s.
Oh yeah, you probably had a way easier time.
No. Mid-40s, sorry.
Yeah, you still probably had a way easier time than I did with that fight.
Oh yeah.
That fight was dreadful. But we can talk about other fights that weren't dreadful for me recently. That took me less tries than the entire final fight.
Gummy fights?
Gummy fights don't count. Gummy fights aren't real things. They hurt your soul and make you feel like you're not human.
So that's how last night went.
Yeah, that's how last night's stream went, guys. If you guys want to go back and watch that, it's most of it's on Facebook at Kelomes, and then the rest of it's over at Mixer. And I'm going to be putting up a couple select parts of the VOD for some YouTube videos this week. But it was for me. I made it up to I'm at 41 hours for KH now. 41-42. I just beat Dark Inferno, and I beat the Schwarzengeist or whatever the hardest gummy mission. It was the hardest gummy mission. That one was
we say it's the
much worse than anything
we say
else.
It's the hardest gummy mission because there's an achievement that goes with it.
It is, yeah, and it's harder than the one that I had to do to get Ultima.
It doesn't look hard, but it is.
Oh my gosh, it is. It's you can get like 2-shot pretty easily, even with some of the really, really good gummy ships. But that all being said, it was a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of fun with it. Going to be playing Kingdom Hearts about 2 times next week as well. That's going to be the main schedule for me, guys, just so you're aware, is Kingdom Hearts 2 nights a week, and then 2 other games. Sando and I will always play on Saturday, and then I will also be playing, on Wednesdays. So that way there's enough time in between that you guys don't feel like I'm trying to slam you with content. It's about, 3 times a week.
But onto the news for this week, or whatever we're talking about.
Onto the news.
I don't know.
Well, onto the topic, I guess, for the week. Because we can't really cover news because of when we record.
Yeah.
Sadly. But that all being said, our podcast episode, which I tweeted out about 5 days ago, was going to be which numbered KH is best.
Oh.
Including final mixes. So, and I throw that down because I think there's a lot of controversy on this between if KH3 is the best or a final mix is the best of 2. Or if and most of the people are comparing final mixes to KH3, which I want to talk about if that's fair or not. And then we can go into how we actually feel about them. I just feel like our opinion should be voiced on it, since that's like what we do, right?
This is the Kingdom Hearts podcast.
Exactly.
Go for it.
So, but that all being said, first, do you think it's fair to really compare final mix games to base games?
Well, normally I would say no, but seeing as though Final Fantasy what? Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix is more widely played than the original was and has been. That's the only reason I would say give that more credit. And the reason to have a comparison between 2 and 3 specifically, a lot of people didn't see that the other games, they were just filler. They were nothing more. They didn't have much story, even though it was canon.
And we all know that they're wrong because, and not to mention the fact of, we watched all the the memory archives last night.
Mhm.
Like that was like 20 minutes and 30 minutes, and it gave you a good enough synopsis of what you needed to know. There was a lot of questions, yeah, but
there were a couple holes here and there, but for the most part,
it wasn't
it gives
a
you
bad thing to use. So when people are sitting there being like, "Oh, they should," I read one thing because this kind of also I want to get into the Leffen controversy stuff that's been going on with it.
All right.
Where he tweeted out that Kingdom Hearts was a 3 out of 10 game because the story made no sense, even though it was the first one he ever played. Which he's doing it to be a troll, but he has community members that are backing him on it, and I think that was the thing that made me sit there and go, "Wow." I think the best tweet that came out of that entire thing was when one person was like, "Yeah, like they didn't even give us a movie or anything. They just expect us to know what's going on." And a person responds, goes, "You're the reason why we have to watch Batman's parents die in every single movie."
Yeah.
And that cracked me up when I saw that. But I don't know. There's a lot that goes on with this KH3 release. You know, we're 2-3 weeks after release right now, and it's just
I'm okay. I'm okay with it being compared from 2 to 3. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, people have played the numbered games. They didn't play. A lot of people didn't play the side stuff, which I still go against saying they should be main ones rather than being referred to as side games, or just rather canon, not.
I hate when people use the term side game. Like you're telling me that what Aqua went through didn't matter? Are you serious?
Yeah.
She had to watch one of her friends lose his body and mind, and then fight him. And then she also had to watch as basically her little brother had his heart torn out of his body. Like, and you're telling me that doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Like, now I can understand coded. Like, coded doesn't matter, but and calm, only thing that matters in calm is the storyline. But I mean, you can't say that.
Days was good. Days played.
Days
well.
was spectacular, and it's the only one they didn't freaking remaster for us. They made the right call with coded, made the wrong call with calm,
yeah,
and the wrong call with days. But that's a topic for another day.
But even with that being said, for people's experience of playing the games, to compare 2 and 3 again, like I said, I understand that, but at the same time, I'm against that because the way 3 plays is a mix between Birth by Sleep and 3D, which is 3D Dream Drop Distance, because you have flow motion. You have
form changes. But the thing is, they made form changes so much better in this one, too,
True.
because if you look at Birth by Sleep, you didn't have a choice in your form change.
You had some choice, you had some control, but it wasn't as
You
much.
had control, but once you got to a point, you didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
You were put into it.
Yeah.
And whether that's good or bad or whatever, like that's not what I'm trying to say. It's just the fact of how they had it set up was you didn't get to choose when you went into it. So like if you were in the middle of a combo,
you would automatically go in.
The second your combo stopped, you automatically went into it. So you wouldn't have time to like switch into magic for your combo. Now you can be like, okay, well I want to do this, then use up all my MP, so that way I'm starting to still gain MP back while I'm doing this finisher. Yeah. Which I also like because they took limits away. Because limits were useless because all of your MP's gone. Like Flare Force and Meteor and stuff like that. Yeah. So like now you get to use them in the middle of combat, and I feel a lot of people say it doesn't flow well. They say that combat doesn't flow well. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that?
There are points here and there that I'm on. Combat overall flows well. Movement in the beginning is really kind of janky if you're not used to the flow motion. Flow motion's
really janky in this game, in my opinion.
I honestly,
they made it way less powerful than they did.
To me, I'm the other way.
Drop.
I could not stand it in a Dream Drop Distance.
I felt like it was easily activated, too easily activated in Dream Drop.
Yeah.
But I didn't lose like my Mega Jump after using it once.
Yeah.
I didn't like that aspect where if I use the jump, right? So you use flow motion jump.
Yeah.
If you use that, and there's clips of me, like I say clips, nobody clipped it, but there's parts of my VOD where I try multiple times to go up this spot in the frozen labyrinth.
Yeah.
And I tried to go up it with flow motion, but I couldn't do it because you couldn't hit the flow motion twice. You could only use it
once. Yeah.
Once. That was my only problem with flow motion in this game, because like it felt useless to me, because if I can only use it once, then why am I really using it at all?
There's also the thing for the flow motion in like I said, in KH3, for the high jump, you don't get that until you do Corona.
Yeah. Which you get it so late in there.
Yeah, you get
to get that big jump from
that's
it.
super useful.
That's the other thing I didn't like. I was like, I couldn't do the large flow motion high jump.
Mm-hmm. Although to be fair, I only use flow motion for movement. I don't use it for attacking. There are those.
I don't use it for attacking.
There
either.
are those that use it for attacking, and early on, it's useful for crowds and maybe
it's useful
opponents.
for crowd control.
But overall, you're better to do something else.
And 9 times out of 10, you're immune while in flow motion.
Mm-hmm.
So being in flow motion, like, it puts you in a position where you're actually you're great because you can't take damage. But I don't know. I mean, that was just my curiosity. So of course, I'm okay with them being compared. Yeah. They're all games in the same series. We've compared them. We've told our lists of what we believe to be our hierarchy.
Yeah.
I think that we should probably revisit that list at some point in time.
Now that
3's out and we've both beaten it.
Mm-hmm.
And we could even split it up and do it on story versus combat and stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't mind doing that.
Yeah.
KH3, in my opinion, is still probably going to be number 1 for both of those, which is different than a lot of people in the community from what I'm seeing, because everybody's like, Final Mix, KH2 Final Mix is so much better. And I'm like, yeah, but that game definitely, where it aged really well, it's still aged.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'll sit there and I'm like, man, I love the fact that I have control over my forms. I don't have to go through my menu to go into a drive.
Yeah.
I can just press Y or triangle to get into my form. I love that.
You have multiple keyblades.
I have multiple keyblades at once, so you still get to use multiple keyblades. Yeah, there's no dual wielding keyblades, which was pretty awesome, pretty BA. But I mean, if you get Ultima, you basically get to, like, tri-wield blades because it's so awesome. If you guys haven't gotten Ultima, it's so worth it.
Rub it in.
It is if you're a physical combo player, which I would say that probably about 70% of Kingdom Hearts players are.
I would say about 80-85%.
Yeah, like, I understand using magic as much as you do, and you've made me use magic a lot more, as you can see as I'm sure you've been able to tell through my gameplay.
Oh yeah,
I use it so much more, but there's just something about running up and you have, like, a sword, quote unquote, and you just get to whap and wallop something with it.
Yeah, I understand on that one.
So Ultima really hits that power fantasy that you're looking for. I think it really does. Being maxed out at a 13-13, strongest keyblade you get in its form.
Yeah.
It is the best keyblade for stats overall. Second best in magic, which is the same thing that happened in KH2.
Yeah.
Final mix with winner's proof.
Yeah. Winner's proof was a 15, I think, in magic.
It was a 14. No, they didn't go up that high. They didn't go up to 13s. It was like a 7.
Sure,
7 was the high. Yeah, it was like, because, like, Ultima was like a 6.5, and winner's proof was like a 6.7. Something like that. It was like barely better than Ultima, but when you used it to hit things, it didn't feel like it was better.
Yeah.
Ultima just felt like a better blade in 2.
As for comparing, in my opinion, you said KH3 both for story and combat.
Yes.
Whereas
although I will, my caveat of that is we're both super fans.
Yes.
I mean, we wouldn't be doing a podcast on Kingdom Hearts if we weren't. So, I mean, I think that's already a giveaway. For a super fan, I feel like KH3 had the best story because it connected all the dots, 95% of the dots, raised more questions appropriately.
Yeah.
And left you with a cliffhanger that still wants to drive you to learn more about the series, hence pushing you to 100% the game. Because I was so wanting to get stuff done with the secret reports, and we're going to do analyses.
Just analysis.
Analyses. Well, it's going to be multiple analysis.
I think it's one of those that you don't put an S on.
I'm putting a weird... analysop.
It's like you don't.
We're gonna make a new word for it. It's an analysopple. We're gonna do an analysopple. Ooh-woo. Oh, I can't wait till you guys get to see the ooh-woo clips. Then you'll understand why we're laughing so much. But we're gonna do an analysis of every single secret report at some point in time.
Yeah.
Whether they'll be in a YouTube series or if we're actually gonna make like a mini series for the podcast, which I could do. I could do a mini series for the podcast. and have them. We're going to read through them, and then we'll talk about what we think they mean. But they raised so many more questions and stuff, especially with Subject X, which is going to be something that we're going to throw around in a couple weeks, because next week we're having Panda on for our spoiler podcast. Because he really wants to talk about. We're not going to bring in more stuff for him.
We're only going to talk.
We're going to talk
KH3
spoilers. And part of that's because Panda's one of those guys where I love him to death, and he has not played through every single game, so he has a very basic understanding of the story. And where I could sit down and explain everything to him,
he has the
it's just
synopsis that KH3 gives you.
He does, and where I think that he would probably be able to hold it up. I don't want to throw in so much information that we're constantly explaining things versus just talking about this stuff. So
yeah,
but I will find a time to explain everything to him, because he loves this series as much as I do. Like, that's why him and I became friends.
Yeah,
that's because he started watching when I was playing Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I like it. I think it's unfair to say. Well, I disagree with saying that KH2 Final Mix was better.
I wouldn't say that it's 100% better. I would say KH3, in my opinion, better story. Although disappointment in it.
Disappointment because how much you don't learn.
Yeah, disappointment because of what you don't learn. But at the same time, I would say KH2 Final Mix had better combat. For a couple reasons. I enjoy in KH3 combat's smooth. I enjoy it. I really do. The magic's fine. I'm sad we missed we missed Magnet, we missed Reflect.
Yeah. I'm okay with not having Reflect. I'm upset about not having Magnet.
Magnet is a big one.
I was looking so forward to being able to use Magnet, but if you actually use the Starlight in Second Form S, you do get the Magnet pull finisher that you got in KH2.
Interesting. But I would say, because in KH3 you didn't get that many worlds, you didn't get replayability, you didn't have going back to them. You go through, you beat it, and then you have post game stuff. Whereas in KH2 you can do all of that before you beat the game. Sure, there's some post game stuff, a little bit post game stuff, but in KH2 that was just more. I
get it. I get what you're saying. Yeah, there was more substance. It felt like there was more content, more meat to it, and it didn't feel that way.
Yeah,
and I like the balance between the two, in the fact that, you know, that was one thing I don't think about, like, when I'm comparing the two. I don't think about going back to worlds and like that, because to me, going back to the worlds always, like, especially KH1, felt like a pain in the butt.
Oh, you know, I agree with KH1.
Like, it was a huge pain in the butt in KH1. It wasn't as bad in KH2. Because you didn't have to do the gummy mission style like that.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
But I love the aspect that you don't have to go back to the worlds. Because it's like, it almost didn't make sense as to why Sora was going back sometimes. To me, like, why did he have to go back a second time when that's something that he literally could have stayed there
and taken care of.
But
at the same time, where you have the element of time, whereas with Olympus, it all got, in KH2, the Olympus got destroyed, or at least Olympus Coliseum got destroyed. Yeah. And then you go back to it later on, and you figure out, oh, more has happened, and you take care of all that's happened.
Yeah. And I guess that would have been fine.
And the same with Beast's Castle. Beast is off. Yeah. He goes crazy, and then you come back later, and you find out why he went crazy, and you take care of it.
And I get it. And I think for the way that the narrative was delivered, it worked out better. But for the way that the narrative was delivered for this one, it didn't make sense.
Yeah, no.
It really wouldn't have made sense to do it that way. So I think from a storytelling perspective, whether you like how the story was told or not, it matched how the story was told.
I will say with 3, I'm happy they brought in new Disney.
Oh, I am too.
New Disney I was so happy with. At the same time, I was sad that we didn't see the Final Fantasy characters.
We didn't see any Final Fantasy characters. We didn't go to Agrabah.
I'm okay with that one.
Well, I mean, I am too. Like, yes, some of these worlds are overused, and I'm tired of seeing them as well. But
at the same time, Herc, there's so much of Herc that we haven't seen. And 3
this was the first time they'd ever shown us the actual story of the movie Hercules.
Yeah.
Which I don't really consider this a spoiler. This is Kingdom Hearts 2.9 we're talking. God, Nomura, you are a terrible human being.
So if you don't know about that, when you start the game in KH3, a little spoiler up for this point, but it's
the first, it's
hour.
literally the first hour of the game.
You go through Olympus Coliseum. You go through Thebes.
You're in Thebes.
You go through, and it right before it loads up, it says Kingdom Hearts 2.9.
Yeah, because he's trying to get his power of waking back. It was right after Dream Drop, and it's like Kingdom Hearts 2.9. I actually never saw the Kingdom Hearts 3 logo pop up on the screen, but I was at the Microsoft store, so I probably just missed it.
But once you beat
Olympus,
once you beat Olympus, then it pops up and says Kingdom Hearts 3, which is both Nomura's way of saying, "Hey, we finally got it out, but let's just."
He was trolling us. He was low-key trolling us.
Push you a little bit more and then see how you guys do with this.
I really did. I thought it was funny, but
I also really enjoy, like, story-wise. Speaking in KH3, I've made this comment before, both on streams, and maybe before here on the podcast. Why Sora's just dumb in 3 for multiple reasons.
I felt like it wasn't that he was any smarter than he was in any of the other games.
It's just the way he was acted. One, he's 16, 17 years old, so he's angsty dumb teen.
Hormonal dumb teen.
Where he thinks he's better than everybody and then finds out, like, certain scenes where he thinks, I can do this. No, you can't. Oh, you're right, I can't.
And then there's certain scenes where he's like, I know I can do this, and he does it. I mean, which are scenes I want to talk about next week.
Yeah.
But, like, there are times where, like, literally Sora was like, they're like, why did you go and do this? He's like, because I knew I could.
Yeah. And there's also, just in the beginning of it, what is Jiminy's journal, as well as a couple other things, is the Gummy phone. It's a smartphone. Sora looks at it and has no idea what this is, because it's a 13-year gap between KH2 and KH3.
Yeah.
That's a big amount of time if just put into when it was published wise, where Sora doesn't see all the what is all going on in the world. So that kind of makes sense why he doesn't understand it. But it's also just a little funny, odd thing for that. It's
a funny, odd thing, but he's never been a technology person, as we find out when he talks to other people in the story. I will say one thing. I was wrong. Dream Drop came out in 2012.
Still.
So that was 7 years. I just was saying that I thought it came out in 15. It didn't.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
We've had releases every 3 to 4 years, though, because of Final Mix and 1.5 and 2.5 stuff. I think the thing that was annoying for most people going on to the release stuff with KH was that it felt like we were constantly getting just the same game, which we were. But we were getting releases. I just think, oh man, I think so much back to, like, watching people that aren't a part of the series, and watch them do things with KH2, and they're like, man, we've waited 13 years for this game. I was like, but did we really? Like, because the thing is, it wasn't even announced until 3 years after the release of Kingdom Hearts 2.
We waited because it was the end of 2, and it was 2 was the big hinter for, hey, there's more coming.
Yeah.
Whereas at the end of 1, it was slightly hinted. Whereas Sora walks off in the horizon, and then that's kind of the way it ends.
Yeah.
In the end of 2, there's the secret movie,
and the secret movie was the only thing that gave you any instance, which I don't think there was a secret movie until... No, there might have been a secret movie in Base 2. There was.
Yeah, because it was...
even then, it was like one of those things of... There's people that were saying, yeah, but we thought that the people in the armor were the main 3. I was like, I'm sorry, but if you look at the height difference between the 2 males, or the male, the female, and then Ventus's character, there is no earthly way you can believe that all 3 of those people are Riku, Kairi, and Sora.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that the female character, Aqua, as we know now, was wearing way too much blue to be Kairi, because her favorite color is pink. Like, yeah, it's one of those things of, like, when I finished 2, I never thought that 3 was going to be, like, it was not my first thought.
Yeah.
Even seeing the secret movie, I was like, Birth by Sleep, I was so happy because it made sense.
Yeah.
Birth by Sleep made sense to me. Where, like, I wasn't sitting here going, that's going to be Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, that was not my thought process. Because,
but like I said,
if we had ended at 2,
Mm-hmm.
The story would have been fine.
Yeah.
2 could have ended, and that could have been the literal end of it, and the only questions anybody would have had would have been about Roxas, which was done in Days.
Yeah.
So, like, once Days came out, we were fine. It had no more questions, because Xemnas was dead. Ansem was dead. The organization was gone. There were no looming questions at the end of 2. There was no looming questions at the end of 2. At least from my opinion. I mean, I look at it and I was like, there was no big question that went, but what about this?
Yeah.
Because, like, when you and I go down and we sit down and we talk and we analyze the story to be like, okay, where are our questions coming from? Our questions all came from Birth by Sleep.
Yeah, because
Dream Drop Distance.
Well, the biggest questions came from Birth by Sleep, because Birth by Sleep came out after 2 and before Days.
Did it come out before Days?
Yeah.
I'm gonna double check on that.
Because
because it was a way better. No, it didn't. It came out after Days.
It did?
I'm sure.
Okay.
I'll double check, but
because Days came out on the regular DS, and Dream Drop came out on PSP, right?
Dream Drop came out on the 3DS.
Not Dream Drop.
But yes, what you're talking about did come out. Yep, Birth by Sleep did. Come out then.
Give me a second. Give us a second. We'll look this up, since we're now invested in this conversation.
Birth by Sleep came out in 2010. Days came out in 2009.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Literally, once.
Still.
Only thing that made, like, Coded came out in 2008 on the phone.
Yeah.
Recoded came out in 2011.
Yeah.
And see, that's the big thing is, like, the only questions we had were Jiminy's journal about who was Naminé.
Yeah.
Which you knew who Naminé was if you played Chain of Memories, so there wasn't much question there.
Mm-hmm.
You knew.
Also, you could also just infer who Naminé was if you played 1 and paid attention.
Yeah, I would say that if you were, 14 or 15 at the time of playing 1, you could probably make that judgment call.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I don't know. I get it. I get why people were like all that, but really, Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop were the 2 that really rose, like, made questions rise up.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of 2, like, there was no villain.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a villain. Birth by Sleep came out, Xehanort was a villain, and he didn't get defeated.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have questions about
Ansem
the Wise and all of that.
But see, if you were one of those people that only played 1 and 2, you're both waiting, but not.
But you're like, what am I waiting for?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I want to see the end of Sora's story. So, I mean, I guess I get where the final mix and all that comes through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really do. I just disagree with it.
Yeah.
Personally, I just disagree with it. But, I mean, in all honesty, you look at it, we've had the 2.5 remix came out in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, and then the ported 1.5, 2.5 HD remake came out in 17. So that was nice when it came out there, but, like, between 2.5 remix and 2.8,
I was gonna say, when
was 3 years.
Okay.
That was 2014 to 2017, and then we only had 2 years between 2.8 and now. So where I, like, somebody brought this up, was like, were you guys thinking, like, Kingdom Hearts fans have been waiting for so long? Like, in all honesty, if you've had a PS4, which, if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna have a PS4.
Mm-hmm.
Because PlayStation's been what it's been on for the most part. I've been enjoying it on Xbox, and I hope they bring the remixes to Xbox. I really do.
I feel like they will, because there were other Sony exclusives that went to Xbox.
Yeah,
they eventually make their way over, but
it'll probably be a couple years. It'll probably be while they're trying to, like, well, we can release this to also let us have more time to work on this project.
Yeah.
Because there is definitely going to be a Kingdom Hearts 4. Well, yes. I hope it's not called Kingdom Hearts 4 though. I hope they do. I hope they start doing what Assassin's Creed did, which is right around before they went to Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really hoping
where
happens.
It is the next one in line.
Yeah.
And it's just subtitle.
Can I use that as an example? Nobody once sat there and with the with the Assassin's Creed 2 stuff, where it was 2 Brotherhood Revelations, nobody once said that those two games didn't matter for the story. They were also on the same platform, I'll give it that, but once the 1.5 and 2.5 remixes came out, everything was on the platform except for Dream Drop.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, that's me just not understanding people. But I don't know. I still felt like our release schedule for games is really not as bad as we like to make it seem.
Yeah.
As Kingdom Hearts fans, like as a community.
And as a community, we've had games every couple of years.
Yeah. Like I think the biggest weight on here is 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest time on here is 3 years. And that's the biggest.
And at the time, that seems like it's forever.
It does.
But once you get past that and look beyond it, it's like, that wasn't that bad.
No. Like, I mean, yeah.
But then that goes for any series.
That's any series, you're waiting 2 or 3 years for a good game, a good sequel to come out. But I mean, I will say, if you only played Kingdom Hearts 2, and then I get upset with those people like, I only played Kingdom Hearts 2, and I'm like, yeah, but why didn't you buy the remix? Like, you knew it had all the other games on it, and you would always, like, whenever I talk to people, they're like, I just don't want to play the game series because I had to get so many different things for it. Well, you have a PS3, right? Yeah. Why not buy 1.5 and 2.5 for $40 and you get 6 games out of it?
Yeah.
And they're like, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, the second those came out, I bought them for my PS3.
Yeah.
And then once I bought a PS4, I bought the 1.5 and 2.5 remix.
Yep.
And then I bought 2.8.
Yep.
So
2.8 was only on PS4.
I understand where people are like, when we completely like disregarded what we had originally started talking about.
I realized this.
And I'm okay with it. But I think that's the thing that bugs me a little bit about the community, where I love our community. I love Kingdom Hearts 2 community, like the Kingdom Hearts community in general. There's this big split between, well, they didn't explain anything after 2 or anything like that. Well, they did. You just chose to not get the game where you could have.
You chose not to look out for it. Even if you don't get the game, you can still look stuff up on the wiki. You can still go to Reddit and figure out, because Reddit has all the answers, but none of the answers at the same time because Reddit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in 2 weeks. Oh, Reddit.
Square Enix.
But I don't know. I think that's the thing that's like annoying to me. It's like I'd see people who complain that they haven't played, Calm, Birth by Sleep, or something like that, and then they're also sitting there going, yeah, but I bought this new $60 game instead of buying the 2.5 1.5 remix for $40.
Man.
And I'm like, well, but like, I mean, you can still be a fan. You can still be a fan and not do that. I get that. And I'm not trying to say that you have to be a fan, you have to play all the games. That's not what I'm saying.
It's also the fact that 3
But I don't want to hear your reason for why a game is bad is because you chose to not learn the story.
3 has had so much hype.
It has. So
much hype. And it 100% it deserves it, but at the same time, the response that people are giving it don't match up with the hype.
I don't think the response... I also feel like the response people are giving it isn't fair.
Yeah.
Like, to say that the game is a 3 out of 10 because you don't understand... Like, a 3 out of 10 and it's the first in the series you've ever played. First off, I've never once picked up a game that was number 3 in the series and expected to understand what was going on without playing any of them.
Yeah, no.
Halo, which is considered one of the greatest series of all time. If you pick up Halo 3, you're going to be confused about everything that's going on. Nobody complained about it. Again, there wasn't 10 years in between the games, 10, 13 years in between the games.
Fair.
But nobody was confused there.
Mm-hmm.
Assassin's Creed 3 was more standalone anyway, so that wasn't a big deal. But, like, Gears 3 was the final chapter, and there was a decent bit of time between Gears 2 and Gears 3.
Oh, yeah.
And, actually, I'm curious, what was the time between those?
But like, I've got another good example once you look that up for years between stuff.
Because 2 came out in 2008.
Okay.
And 3 came out in 2011. So that was 3 years as well.
Okay. Well, the example I have is Dragon Age. You got Dragon Age Origins, which is It wasn't Dragon Age 1, it was titled Origins.
Origins,
It's
yeah.
the beginning, where you get all... It was also a novel that went along with it, but we don't pay attention to that.
No.
Because it's hard to find. Then there was Dragon Age 2, labeled 2, same universe, but everything that happened in 1 and 2, you didn't need to know.
Yeah.
And then
there's Inquisition.
Inquisition, again, it's
Same
just...
universe, but it didn't matter what had happened beforehand. Where if your save file was there, it would tell you, but otherwise it was like, there was this hero that did these things. And like if you had the previous save files, it would connect the games.
It would reference to... If you...
Two was too short.
If you had never played any of them...
You could still be fine.
And you got into Inquisition, it would reference a whole lot in the beginning, but you wouldn't understand it, and the game would then tell you.
Yeah.
I feel that's the same with KH3. Even if you don't know anything about it, if you play into it enough, the game tells you what goes on.
You're the reason that we have to show Batman's parents dying in every movie. I don't know.
God, that comment.
I get it. I do. And I'm not trying to say that if you're listening to this, that you're wrong because you didn't play the other games. I also doubt that if you're listening to this, you're really complaining about the KH3 release or the game in general for not understanding stuff. I just feel like the people that are, it makes no sense to me. And I'm not trying to be hateful towards them or anything like that. And because there's a lot of them out there that, like, one of the people I work with, he was like, hey, I picked up KH3 and I watched, and here's the thing, he's like, he had talked to me, he's like, how much am I going to understand of the story if I've only played 2? I was like, you're going to have to go watch something. And he's like, I spent the whole night before and I watched 4 or 5 hours of KH review of the storyline. He's like, and then, and after that he was like, and he's like, and now I'm going to jump in. And I was like, that's being a responsible fan member, like right there. You're like, you know it's gonna be confusing because you're like, there's been 10 years between and all these games that I never played came out, and I'm not gonna take the time to play them. So you know you're gonna be confused, but instead of being like, maybe I should go learn the story, because everybody says that Kingdom Hearts is one of the most, if not the most convoluted and complex stories in gaming. Like, and I say one of them because like Metal Gear is just as bad. And you sit there between them and you're like, if you know it's gonna be this bad, but you're not willing to go on the forefront of making sure that you're going to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people are like, Final Mix is so much better than KH3, is because it's like, how prepared were you for the story? Because like the way the narrative was told, how smooth the combat was. That combat is super crispy.
Yeah.
I had never once been able to cancel a combo by blocking in midair. That wasn't something you could do in KH2.
No.
That wasn't something you can do in Final Mix. Want to know how we know, guys? Because we have put multiple hours into data fights where if we could block in midair, we would have been in love. We had to use Reflect if we wanted to block in air. And even then, you can't cut a combo in half by trying to smash Reflect into that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you had so much more freedom to do stuff in the combat system, and there's so many beautiful things in it. Like, yes, am I a fanboy? Oh, 100%. I definitely am. I qualify as a fanboy for that. But there's so many good things that came from KH3. The only thing that's bad is not going back to the worlds, in my opinion.
I mean, even still, that's okay.
And even then, yeah, but I could beat a world in KH2 in an hour, and I spent 2 hours to beat a world in KH3.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, at what point in time am I really losing here? Because I'm still spending the same amount of time on each world, and it doesn't make sense to me. Like, and it makes more sense to me because I don't have to go back. Like, I don't have to go back for a random reason that has to then be explained in the lore why I had to go back.
Also, I just noticed, outside of 100 Acre Wood, which has always been the same more or less, there's no minigame world.
There is not a minigame world.
100 Acre Wood.
And here's the thing, you don't have to play 100 Acre to beat the game.
Yep.
I didn't do that and I got yelled at by people. Mostly Panda.
Although
Panda would be like, you didn't, he's like, you're a KH3 fan, but you didn't play 100 Acre Wood when you beat the game. I was like, yeah, because it wasn't necessary. Talk to me about any KH fan that wants to go and do a fun, quick run through KH2 and then ask them about the Pride Lands. Because guess what you don't have to do if you're playing KH2? Pride Lands, or Atlantica, or 100 Acre Wood.
True.
There are 3 worlds you don't have to play in that one. You had to play all but 1 world in this one.
Yeah.
You had to. That was it. I mean, it was nice to play Bejeweled. Although I didn't read the tutorial because I was having a night. That was on my birthday. I was having fun that night.
Yeah, you were.
So I didn't actually play, like, I didn't read the tutorial, so I didn't know what I was doing on, and then somebody told me, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes it so much easier. It was actually boring then. Because I was trying to do it, like, I didn't know you could hold down to...
You were doing one-shots?
Yep, I was doing one-shots.
Yeah, that was taking forever for you then.
It wasn't, well, it was taking forever for the first one, and then I couldn't actually beat the second one.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't working. I was like, I don't know what's going on, and somebody's like, you can hold it down. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So...
Gosh.
How many? But that's where I come from with it. I don't know. No, I think the thing that makes KH2 a better, because I've been like counteracting all these things and being like a KH3 fanboy so much. I think the thing that made 2 good and everything like that was that there were no questions at the end.
Yeah.
The only questions at the end were through the secret movie, which if you're not playing on proud mode, you're never going to get to. Because you had to play proud mode to unlock it.
No, the secret movie is through emblems.
I'm talking about KH2.
Oh, I thought you were... Okay, yeah, sorry. I thought you were talking about 3. I was like, what?
No. So that's why I was saying the good thing about KH2 was there were no questions.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Except for the secret movie, which you had to play through proud mode to do. So if you weren't going to play through proud mode, you would never come across it.
True. Ignore my blunder.
This is how you can tell how much he actually pays attention to what I say.
I'm fiddling with my phone. Give me a second.
He is fiddling with his phone. So that's the thing for me where I kind of notice it and sit there and I'm like, okay, that's really good about the game. But at the same time, like, combat always felt clunky.
Mm-hmm.
There would be times where you'd be blocking, actively having your keyblade up, and having an attack come through and hit you. You'd dodge roll and be hit by 14,000 damage. Like, and then stuck in a combo. Like, there's so many things about that game that were great, I agree. But I think we need to take off the nostalgia lens with it and understand that there was a lot of bad about that game too.
Yeah.
There was a lot of good. KH2, masterpiece. I have more hours in Kingdom Hearts 2 than I do any other game.
Same.
But...
well... Yeah, we're not going to talk about that save. I have a save where I stayed on...
Oh, I've talked to people about that before.
In my KH1 save, I have a save where I stayed
in
Destiny Isles until level 99.
You said it was like level 50. Oh gosh.
Yeah,
99's worse.
Yeah.
And you know the only way to get level up, by the way, guys, in there is by fighting Tidus.
Yeah.
Maybe can you fight Waka?
Yeah, you can fight. So, I do
Tidus, Waka, and Riku. That's the only way you can get experience. And the only way you can get experience by fighting them is by teching them.
Technically, whatever the girl's name is, too.
You can't fight her.
Yeah, you can.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you can. You can fight 4 people.
I'm skeptical on that one.
She's really easy. That's why people don't consider her one.
Well, no, I just think that every time I tried to talk to her, she would only talk to me. That was it. She wouldn't let me do anything else.
You could totally fight her. She had a jump rope. Waka had a beach ball, and Tidus had a stick.
Yeah.
And Riku had a wooden sword. She's out in the pier.
Well, I know where she is. Just don't remember being able to fight her. Anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't change the fact that you spent way too much time there because you can only get 1 point of experience per tech.
Waka you could get 5 from.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but High Roller.
Yeah.
High Roller getting 5 instead of like the 500 you can get for killing a lot of the Heartless at the end game.
Yeah, no.
Or 1,000 experience you can get.
That's why that save file is like 70 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Well, I mean, I think doing like the battle gates and stuff, I grew like 10 levels doing battle gates,
Oh yeah,
which is so much fun.
you level so quickly in 3. It feels so.
It's because the enemies are actually worth more experience.
Yeah,
That's what it is. It's like, it's not that you're gaining more or anything like that. Like you're gaining the same amount of experience. It's just the enemies are
worth it.
worth it. They're worth what you're fighting. So
Yeah.
that's nice. But that's where I come from with it. I think that we have a lot of nostalgia when it comes to those games, which is fine. Nostalgia's great, don't get me wrong. But I think that there's also the fact of KH3, in my opinion, and of course this is only my opinion, is a better game overall. Even if you think that the story was better or whatnot, like I think there's enough parts of KH3 that are better than KH2 Final Mix that make it worthwhile. Because like the only things that were endgame in KH2 Final Mix was the data fights, Sephiroth, and Lingering Will.
And then mushrooms.
And mushrooms. So mushrooms counteracted by Flan.
Mm-hmm.
There's not 13, there's only 7. There's the Flantastic 7.
Yeah.
They're just as annoying.
Sephiroth is easily.
Sephiroth can easily be thrown away by any of the battle gates.
Yeah.
Same with.
Well, I was gonna say compare. Well, no, you would rather compare Lingering Will to Dark Inferno.
I would. Yes, I would. Well, no, I wouldn't. I would probably compare Lingering Will to some of the gummy fights.
Yeah. Okay, so Sephiroth to
Sephiroth would be Dark Inferno.
And then just data fights.
And then data fights would just be again,
battle gates
in general.
The data fights aren't as hard as compared to the battle. I mean,
battle gates are a lot easier than the data fights.
But you still have to go through kind of a gauntlet. It's not really a gauntlet, but it's
there's 14 of them.
No, I'm not saying.
Well, I'm just saying in general. Like there's
to get to the data fights, you had to go through Cavern of Remembrance,
yes.
which is a lot harder fights and whatnot, which is what the battle gates were.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I think there's a lot more endgame content. Or the not to mention DLC is going to be coming out.
There's a lot of collectibles in 3. Yeah. A lot of collectibles.
There's a lot of grinding in that game.
Surprisingly, it's a lot of non-combat collectibles.
Anyway, I'm not looking forward to that. But so that's just, and again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that my opinion's right or wrong or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that that's just a neutral opinion. I just think objectively Kingdom Hearts 3 is the better game.
Oh yeah.
I still think there's beauty in KH2 and KH2 Final Mix. I want to hear your guys' opinions on it.
I have a question for you.
Yes, please, because we still have lots of time.
Speaking of KH3, what would you rate it on a scale of 10? Because I know you love 2 Final Mix.
2 Final Mix was really good. 2 Final Mix, though, if you look at it objectively and not through my wonderful rose-tinted fan glass lenses that I bought from Nomura, especially, that's a joke. If I take a look at it without,
you didn't buy those from Nomura. You bought them from Marluxia. I know. Marluxia fanboy.
I hate him so much.
It's not
as much as you hate him.
It's not as much. Not worth seeing. That's all it matters.
Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, so I think for me, 2 objectively looking versus all the fun and all the good times I've had through it, that game's probably about an 8.
Yeah.
Easily a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10.
That's the way I feel.
Through all the fun and everything like that that's been gotten through it, it's probably a 9. Base with Kingdom Hearts 3, there's a couple of spots that are really just, they nick at you and you get very nitpicky.
Yeah.
Same thing in 2. There's just moments like that.
Yeah.
I'd still give it a 9.5. It was such a good game in my opinion.
Yours is a bit higher than mine.
Yeah.
See, for me, 2 Final Mix, I would say that's about 8.5. I would, for 3, I would go no higher than 9. Even if, say, we get all the DLCs and everything gets explained in 3 in the future, which it won't be like that.
No, it won't. That won't happen.
I won't go any higher than 9 ever for KH3.
Bruno probably wants to be let out. I don't think he's been let out yet, and it's half an hour past his dinner time.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like big part with 2 Final Mix, like you say, is nostalgia. We've put so much time into that game. We really have.
I mean, you and I alone have put in. If I wanted to bring it up, we could look. I mean, you put in about. We add up all the time in my first few game saves because we put our ones that we hold on to down at the bottom.
Yeah.
We put in 60 hours, I think, roughly on our crit run.
Mm-hmm.
I put in 40 or 50 on my standard run, just for fun, and that's over 100 hours on my PS4.
Yeah.
Not including the time I put into Recom, the time I put into Dream Drop Distance, the time I put into Birth by Sleep, the time I put into KH1. Like, I add all of that up, and I'm looking at a game series that I've literally put in, 200-300 hours worth of time into.
Mm-hmm.
And KH2 alone was the best Kingdom Hearts game up until 3.
Yeah.
And so it was the one that you would always want to go and play because it was the best one to play, with the drive forms, with the fluidity of the
and to me
of the combat with no command decks.
Yeah, to me, 2 Final Mix has just a lot more replayability than 3 does currently. So for that reason, even
that is 100% true because you have critical mode.
Mm-hmm.
Like, once you, all of us that started on Proud mode, we got through Proud mode and we're like, well, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna level 1 Proud? Well, that's boring. Why would I level 1 Proud?
Panda. But 2 is just so much more replayability to it for me, because even sure, in the beginning of both 2 and 3, you can choose different pathways. You can go strength, magic, defense, HP, whatever you want to do. 3, you get more options, a little bit more options, but still, at the end, once you get max level, once you do all the stuff in the game, it just, like I mentioned earlier, 2 has just a lot more to it, in my opinion. I still love both of them equally, but
and I will say
3 will stay at a 9 for me.
The time it takes to beat Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix on Proud mode is about 30 hours.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch everything.
Also, 3 is a lot of cutscenes.
3 is a lot of cutscenes.
3 is if you've ever played the game, it's what I would compare to Metal Gear Solid 4, where Metal Gear Solid 4 was a movie with gameplay. KH3 was 50-50.
But it did such a good job at making it feel fluid that there was times where you're sitting there, you're like, when am I controlling the camera? When are they going to control it?
Yeah. I love that. It was
so nice because, like, you towards the end of the game, you can see a little bit of a difference in the graphics, because I think that they were just like, we can't spend more time on it.
Mm-hmm. There would be a couple scenes like, oh man, that would be a great fight. Wait, am I gonna up? I'm playing now.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my gosh, or even like the multi phases in the gummy fights. You're like, you beat something, and I like freaked out, and the next thing I know, there's another part of the fight, and I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, that's not something you would get previously, which I love. But
I still don't know how I feel about Kingdom Hearts-tagram.
Yeah, no, that's funny though. I enjoy it. It's a good laugh as you're going through loading screens. I don't like the fact that you have to press a button to get off the loading screen.
Yeah.
That bothers me.
I get it though.
Mm-hmm.
I get why it is, but I don't like it either. It's just one of those things. I think part of it's so that way you don't, because there were so many times you'd get a loading screen and then a cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
It's to stop people from missing cutscenes.
Yeah.
Because what if you're like, oh, this is loading. Oh, perfect time for me to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think it's going to take long, and the next thing you know, the second you walk away, boom, it's done.
Yeah.
But you're waiting to move on, right? So that's what I liked about it.
Mm-hmm.
I get not liking that aspect of it, but at the same time, I was like, it worked really well for if I need to take a break to go do X, Y, or Z.
Mm-hmm. I
can make sure that it's at a loading screen and I can go and come back.
Yeah.
So that was nice in that aspect.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I'm out of words at this point.
This week's a little bit slower because we didn't want to talk theory crafting.
It's hard to do theory crafting without giving people more information on what happens in 3, and we're not going to do that until next week.
And next week is going to be reactions on spoilery stuff with Panda.
Mm-hmm. How we all think this should have done.
It went and everything like that. We're going to talk about it. We'll talk about his history with Kingdom Hearts, stuff like that we do with people that are new to the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we get...
And since we're closer with him than we have with a couple of other guests, we're going to poke fun of him a lot. Or at least I am.
You are. Yeah, I poke fun at Pixel, but that's because Pixel and I are pretty close.
Yeah.
But it's been a fun run so far.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really excited to see everything that happens. My Dark Inferno fight was...
Amazing.
The only thing that was sad about that was I beat him on the second try.
Mm-hmm.
Where some people would be like, you only took you 2 tries to beat him? Like, he's not that great of a boss. No, I think part of it's the fact of playing through KH3 makes you learn so much quicker and become so adaptable.
See, your next challenge is going to do it without taking damage.
Oh gosh, that's not going to happen. I'm too reckless of a player to do that one. I was using iframes to beat him.
Okay, then next you can do it without Ultima.
Oh god. Okay.
There's your 2 challenge options. Do it
without Ultima at level 99.
Do it without Ultima, or do it without taking damage.
Ultima is so broken and I love it.
But you have a choice.
We'll see what happens.
Or do it or do all of this on a level 1.
I still have way too much to do in that game.
Yeah.
And I think my Kingdom Key is still level 1. So we could do it with Kingdom Key level 1.
Or you can do Honey Spout.
Still also a level 1 Keyblade for me.
Kingdom Key is better than Honey Spout.
Not stat wise.
Not max stat wise.
No, not base stat wise either.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Base stat wise, it's an end game Keyblade.
Honey Spout is not.
It comes out as an end game Keyblade for stat wise. It comes up, I think, pre-upgraded to by 3 levels. Just like Wheel of Fate did.
Then that's different for you because mine was.
That's probably because of when I beat it.
I don't know, that's weird.
Remember, I beat 100 Acre after I beat the game.
Still.
So. Anyway, this will be a little bit of a shorter podcast. Still decent long, but
what are we at,
that all being said, about an hour.
Okay.
We're just under an hour. But that all being said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Our ranting and whatnot. I think at the end of the day, it was really, we came down to there are parts of 2 that are better. There are parts of 3 that are better.
Yeah.
I think we both agree that 3 just generally is better.
It's
objectively.
3 has a lot of pros and very little cons, whereas the others have a mix between.
They have about a 50-50 shot on them. And so that's the only downside. But that all being said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Come out to stream so you guys can watch us, have fun there. Check out the videos on YouTube, all that fun stuff.
If you have any questions, you can ask us on Twitter. You can ask us
in Discord.
Kill at
Mind of Kill for me, and Sando at Sando153.
Yep.
All that will be down in the show notes. That all being said, though, I hope you guys have a great day. Stay awesome, do great things. I'll see you guys next time. Adios.
See ya.